So let's just read off these table of contents like we did last night.
All right.
So we're going to start with Papa John's and the grid square street system of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Best.
We're going to talk about the apartment life on South Side, moving into Midtown, and then moving into 3rd and Zunis, there towards the north side. Las Americas Mexican Restaurant, our favorite. Backyard Explosion, Chimenea, Stolen Car ×2, and maybe wrap it up with the CPR story.
What about you meeting Jimmy
Yeah,
and the ball bag thing at Los Americas?
definitely not. No, sir.
We can't do that.
No, and we're recording. No, definitely not. Okay.
I haven't walked away from it. So.
And then, my God, no. Okay. Okay. Another good episode coming your way. All right, guys, thanks for joining. And this is a special broadcast entitled, what's a good name for it? Our Time in Tulsa. And so I'm wearing a shirt representing the Great Bison of Oklahoma.
Right on. Tulsa.
That I got in I think it was a CVS in Tulsa. Sometimes they have some good T-shirts, believe it or not. I was there, for one of my trips, and I went into the CVS to get I don't know what, and then I'm like, wow, they got these Buffalo shirts here for $5.99. This was many years ago. This was the CVS at 71st and Lewis Avenue. So a big shout out to everyone that's watching. If you're from Tulsa and you know us, thank you so much. Coworkers,
we love you.
Previous bosses, previous neighbors,
Everybody.
previous friends out there in Tulsa. Me and Drew had a blast living out there. We had too much fun.
Absolutely love
Sometimes
Tulsa.
we had way, way, way too much fun. We apologize in advance for that. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
We had an absolute blast, though. And tonight we're going to share some PG-13 stories from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We can't share them all, guys, because ashamedly, like the Bible says, we've all fallen short. And we
fell short.
We fell short a whole lot. We might have partied too much and partied too late and partied too hard. So therefore, there's going to be those kinds of stories. We don't want to glorify
It was a long time ago.
that stuff
We
too
did
bad.
this
So we're
forever.
just going to omit the stuff that's just not suitable anymore to replay. Still funny to us, but it doesn't mean that it's YouTube and internet worthy for the world to feast on. So these are some pretty good ones.
Yeah,
And
these
so
are funny though.
We're going to start with Papa John's and the grid square street system. For those of you that don't know, did I hit the record? Make sure I hit the record button. We can edit this part out. It should be a clock there running at the top in red.
443, 444.
Roger. Okay, good. That has happened. I've not pressed record. So when I moved to Tulsa back in the year early 2003 or 2004, initially I started to go to Oral Roberts University. That was my whole purpose of being there, was to take some of these Bible college credits over and work on a degree from Oral Roberts University. Now that didn't plan out at all because for many different reasons, that school was geared more to a 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. school schedule. And I needed to work during the day. I needed like a full-time job. I had reached that age where I needed a full-time gig. I can't be a full-time student. I need to do these evening school things. ORU's a great and awesome school. And I made some cool friends there. But scholastic-wise, it was not a good move with what I was trying to do as far as a career goes, but it really worked out because I ended up getting a degree at St. Gregory's University, carrying that on to Tennessee Wesleyan University to get my bachelor's. And we had a great working experience at the Tulsa Boys Home for many, 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 many years. So that's how we kind of ended up there. But one of the first things that you learn when you move out to Tulsa is that the street system, well, this ain't no big deal, Mike. It is. The street system is on something called a grid square street system developed by the Army Corps of Engineers. the people in the East, we're on something called township and road something other roads. And that's where your roads just do this. You do this. And there's maybe there's some straight ones, but for the most part, these are old farm rural roads from hundreds of years ago.
Yep.
And they just kind of straightened them up and made them what they are now. So that's why in the South you can go, turn left at Durkee Road, go past the third barn and go by Meacham's ammo store, and that's where you can get your haircut at. In the Midwest, when you're on the grid square street system, you don't refer to none of that stuff. You just refer to the streets that are intersecting, because it's all when you look at it from the top, or if you fly overhead, I'll show a picture of it. It looks like a perfect, just a bunch of perfect squares.
It's perfect grid.
It's ingenious.
Absolutely.
We've got more traffic in Cleveland and Chattanooga than Tulsa, and Tulsa's 10 times the size, and that's because the grid squares, they evenly distribute that traffic out.
It works. The grid square just flat out works.
It's amazing. And so that way you can go, hey, where are you guys eating at tonight? We'll be at
21st and Yale.
We'll be at the Sizzler at 21st and Yale.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you drive, if you lived on maybe 5th Street, for example, you would drive down south to 21st Street. Every mile it would go
11th.
Yeah.
21st.
11th Street, 21st, 31st. And in between those is 24th, 25th. So as it goes from 1st Street all the way down south into like 130 something. So those streets that are going south are numbered streets, and the streets that are moving east and west are named streets. Lewis Avenue, Oswego Avenue, Memorial, Yale Avenue, Harvard Avenue,
Utica.
So you would be at a numbered street and a named street. And so people would just go, oh yeah, you'd see the grid in your head, and it is amazing. And I would love to explain that to people who lived in the East and in the South, because they were like, huh? A what? And so I'm like, man, you just got to live there. So I loved the grid square street system. When I first moved there, I had to get a job. Right off the bat, I got a job. What's the easiest place you can get a job at usually? Is that a gas station or a motel or a pizza place? So I got a job at the pizza place to give me some fast cash, and I needed to get to know the city. So that's a good way to do it. And so the dude told me, he says, I know it sounds confusing at first, but once you know the grid square street system, this will be the easiest and best job you ever had, because you'll just get to your stop so much quicker. And so Papa John's actually developed, or Papa John's had a map of our coordinates of the section, and the south side of Tulsa, except for one or two parts, is a very, very nice part of Tulsa. And so they had like a lot of mini mansions out there, especially at the further south you got. Once you got past south of 101st South, there was a whole lot of mini mansions. And one of our favorite pastimes, me and Drew, when we were partying,
back in the day, keep that in mind.
Back in the day, we'd get higher in a cot, and we would go and check out all of these cool mini mansions that were out there, and you could just drive for hours, and there's nobody out there, because maybe it was 10 p.m. and all these rich people were already in bed.
Right.
But we would just drive through there and just look at the amazing mini mansions, and I loved doing that.
It was somewhat inspirational even, to get to see these and be like, okay, well, I mean, I'm sure these people were doctors, lawyers, what have you, but
something, yeah.
Seeing something like that is something that would kind of give you a sense of inspiration to try to
keep better in your life.
Yeah, to continue better in your life. So
the grid square, I loved it.
Grid square's awesome.
And Papa John's kept us fed, and it wasn't long after that, I called Drew and I was like, Drew, this is a real cool, livable city, and I don't think you've got much going up there where you're living at, so why don't you pack some of your bags and come on down here, man. You can crash down here and get you a job at the Papa Jimmy's place or what have you. And it worked out pretty good for you too. And what did you think of the grid square street system?
Like I said, I absolutely loved it. I mean, you could even use like little landmarks. Like this place was at 11th and Yale. Okay, well, where is it you're trying to go? Oh, well, that's near such and such, and that's supposed to be on 51st and Memorial. So you just go straight up this way, turn left, turn right here. I did right, and but turn right here, and it should be right there at Yale Avenue. I don't know. I keep on using that. I guess you mentioned Oral Roberts earlier. And isn't Oral Roberts University supposed to be like the Christian version of like Yale University, like with its prestige and stuff?
I've not heard it put that way, but possibly.
I mean, it's a prestigious school.
It was. It extremely was.
Yeah. So
I remember when I got into ORU, my academic background. For those of you that watch the other videos of the whimsical high school that I came from. And I mean, I was behind in every ORU class. And so that was one of the reasons that was definitely not the main reason, but
right.
Of course but it's academically, yes, that was a very heavyweight academic school.
Yeah.
Very cool school though. Very, very, very cool interior. It was designed in the 60s. I mean, it was built of course in the 60s and 70s, but they designed it retro. Like a retro look that would still be cool 100 years from now. Right, so they've not touched any of the designs. And it looks awesome.
We were out there a couple of years ago. We seen it, and it still had that beautiful design out front and everything.
One of the buildings, the columns were designed to look like Solomon's Temple. Mm-hmm. The hospital is supposed to be the dimensions of the ark, height, width, because it had 3 different things to it. And a couple different fountain sculptures, which is super cool. But so it was a blast driving around town. It was easy to get around. What I loved about Tulsa is there were different sections. You had the south side, the east side, midtown, rich midtown, full of that rich midtown oil. Tulsa was a booming oil place.
Oil industry.
Lots of good wealth developed there through the oil times. Good news, not just for white people, but business was awesome for the black people of Tulsa. So black people had their own businesses, some oil too, and they had their own Greenway district there. I think the Greenway district. And so business was great for a lot of people, and it was a good city. And then you had the north side, which was maybe what would you say? It was hot. It was hot. For those of you that know.
But it is definitely the harder side between the north side and the south side of Tulsa. It is definitely the harder.
Opposite.
It is the harder side.
And the story behind that is really sad.
Yeah.
And maybe that's another podcast, but we pray and believe for continued big and good things to happen to the north side of Tulsa.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely.
We got a lot of our friends out there that we love, and there's unfortunately a lot of gang violence.
Yeah.
Where you're getting into that at the age of 5. As soon as you can walk, you may be already familied into a family of violence and what have you. And so, but it's a good city, and it's a shame that the north side of that place
that the crime rate
is not great and not real too safe to be around.
If it's progressed since I've been there, then
I think it has a little bit.
That's super.
And it goes back to the Tulsa race riots, which was started by the white people, unfortunately, and they did them wrong, and everybody suffers with that, and but especially them. But the north side was cool to visit. It had its own little vibe, It wasn't all guns a-blazing or nothing like that. There was some.
We'd go up there and go.
There were some cool spots to go.
I'd go up there and go to that school with that little playground.
They had a little workout gym outside there. We would
go and chin ups, push ups, monkey bars. Whole Monty.
But for the most part, we started on the south side of town in an apartment complex called the Lakes. And it was not a bad area. It would just had this one, as they used to say in Iraq when they were describing Al Qaeda, pockets of resistance. And so the Lakes, and there was a couple of others there, 71st, and then it got really hot right there at 51st and Peoria, pockets of resistance. But I remember, but for the most part, it was not dangerous. But danger would just come up out of nowhere. Like, for example, one night I was home and I was studying my Oral Roberts University homework. And I heard a gunshot outside my window. And I mean, so close outside my window that I dropped to the floor because I knew I got incoming rounds. This is going to be one of 3 incoming rounds. I hit the floor and I was counting the carpet fibers. That's how low I got, and it happened in a second. And they shot off 1 or 2 rounds, but one went. I don't know if I can't remember. Maybe it didn't go through my window, but it sure sounded like it went through my window. Like I was looking for it to go through my window because it sure sounded like it. But it hit my apartment. And then it was minutes later when security was running through trying to grab this guy. And it was a guy who they had been watching because they got reports of a guy looking in people's windows. He was a peeping Tom. So the security people or the cops comes up behind the peeping Tom guy. Well, they scare the peeping Tom guy and he shoots at the cops that's right behind him. And so one of those rounds, they were really close to my apartment. So that was one thing that happened at the Lakes.
No,
I think this was pre-you.
Yeah, I was going to say that had to have been when you were living in the
little studio there.
Little studio, yeah.
The second one that I remember, I'm sure. I mean, there was all kinds of crime that went on, but the one that I knew about and personally affected, we had a coworker of ours. I won't mention his name. Well, I will. Who cares? But his name was Ramondo. You remember that big old dude that worked with us?
Yeah, I do.
And
he
so
was such a kind-hearted guy.
He was a good dude.
Yeah, big old teddy bear.
He was the size of this house.
Yeah.
And he told me about some guys that pulled a knife on him, and I'm like, who in their right mind is going to pull a knife on Ramondo in the laundry room? The guy's the size of the laundry room. What are you thinking? And he was some defensive tailback for the Oklahoma State or something like that. He was huge. And I can't imagine, like, why are you being held at knife point in the laundry room? You got a bunch of extra Tide Pods they were trying to get, or what? Did he
actually get cut or anything? Because I think I kind of remember the story, but I
don't remember enough. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if he got. I am leaning towards the fact that he got cut a little bit.
I think so. Yeah. I think he didn't get stabbed.
As he attacked his attackers and probably just strangled them to death because he said they were 2 skinny dudes, and I was like,
2 skinny dudes
versus a rhino
against a lineman. It's just not going to work. I don't care.
So I don't know. Maybe
already proved that.
Maybe he had some extra dryer sheets, and they asked, "Hey, can you spare some dryer sheets?" And he says, "No, man, I don't think I'm going to share my dryer sheets with you."
So they pull a shank on him.
So that's what happened on the south side. Also, what happened on the south side is your car got stolen. One of 2 or 3 stories of your car being. I've never known anybody in my entire life who had their car stolen. Period, much less as many times as Drew had his stolen. Tell him about your car. Like, what was it and what was so attractive about that car?
Well, like you said, a lot of this that he had just talked about was pre-me coming out there. I came out there in about roughly around September, October of 2005 or 2004. No. And came out there and I had worked hard to get this car. There was a car that I had seen And this gentleman that I worked for, he was the one that had it. And it was a 1987 Olds Cutlass Supreme.
Black.
When I first got it, it was a two-tone. It was silver on top and black at the bottom. This guy sold me this vehicle, and look it up, Google this vehicle. It is one of the most beautiful vehicles ever. And he sold it to me for only $2,000.
Wow.
Not a bad deal. And I drove this bad boy clear out to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now, I live in a place called Ironton, in case you want to know. So this is about a 900 plus mile drive. Made it there. Solid, you know. And a couple months go by. Me and Michael here, we end up getting that flat. You know, you had one side, I had the other, you know, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, living room in the middle. And Christmas Eve comes around and I'm supposed to meet someone. So I'm like, all right, cool, you know, get off the phone with the person, go run out into the parking lot. And as I'm running, I just keep on running, you know, and finally stop and look around, and my car is nowhere to be seen. And I'm like, this is really, really bad. I just moved out here, just got a job out here, a good job out there at the time. And on top of all of it, you're in Tennessee. You're here when this happens.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So I call, you know, hey, my car's been stolen, call Tulsa's Finest. And call him, tell him, hey, what's going on and everything. Well, I'll be back, and when I get back, we'll look for it, you know. And I'm like, it's gone. It's been chopped up. It's at a chop shop. It ended up finally, after about 2 hours, cop finally rolls up, and she is just not believing anything I'm saying. She thinks that I'm under the influence of something. It's Christmas Eve, so she's probably just stressed out. She has to work, you know. And then it's not there. Bothered me a lot. And then finally, Michael gets back from Tennessee. And you look at me and you're like, you know what? Let's go on a patrol.
A lot of things can be figured out when you go on a patrol. I took out the grid square street system. I took out the map. And I was like, okay, we live here. And there's another apartment complex here, 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 and here.
Yeah, there's several different
You park right
complexes.
Here.
Yeah.
And so there's this main little road that goes right through all. This is the one way in, one way out between all these apartment complexes.
Yep.
And so I just figured out, you know, I'm no Magnum PI, but I just have a hunch. And this is what I did on the plane ride home. You know how you're up a couple thousand feet in the air,
right,
on that plane ride in the window seat, and you bring something to work with you? I get a lot of good ideas up there. And I looked at that map and I'm like, I'm betting that whoever took that car lives in one of these 4 apartment complexes, because they drive this road up and down. Drew's car, that model, appeals to a certain type of group of people, like the people who race them, or people who jack them up, put a new engine in it and sell it for money or something like that.
Like I said, it's just a beautiful car.
It appeals, you know, it's not like a Honda Accord or something like that. It appeals to like those kind of roughneck racy type people. And so I'm like, somebody has driven up and down that thing and has watched that car a dozen times and finally said, we're going to go see how hard it is to steal it. And if we go patrol, if we start local first and spread out, let's start with this whole sector here and go no further, not driving around widely. Let's start and just work our way crisscross all through these subdivisions. I mean, not subdivisions, sorry, apartment complex. I got a feeling we're going to find your car. And I think I even had a dream about it. Now, I don't know if I don't know what was going on with. I don't know what I had to drink that day that told me that, but I really think I had a dream about it. Like I could visualize it. Now, I don't know if that was God or whether that was who knows what. But I'm telling you, we got in my car and we drove.
No, you had the tracker.
I had my truck. Yeah. So I had my truck. So we drove through the first apartment complex, second apartment complex, third apartment complex, and I guess that fourth one or something. We're driving all the way around it, and then bam, sure enough, this thing was parked at the very, very back of that apartment complex.
Do you remember that complex name? I do.
What was it?
Foxfire. Foxfire Apartments. I remember that.
Foxfire
and we were driving and looking, and it was the grill, because it had a special type of grill on the very front of it. And sure enough, I'm like, that's my car. And you're like, you stop. And you're like, are you sure? I'm like, that's my car. I know that's my car. That is my car. He's like, okay, don't you need to call the cops and tell them? So, yeah,
I didn't know what to do. So we pulled in. We pulled into
right
a spot.
Well, you pulled right in front of that car at that time.
Pulled right in front of it for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then I remember we pulled to the side because the minute we pulled in front of it, after we were there for a few minutes, guess who notices we're outside the stolen car? The people that stole it. They were on a balcony, and next thing you know, you've got 3 or 4 dudes standing on that balcony watching us park in front of that car. So I'm like, well, you guys are busted. But at the same time, we don't want to be machine gunned down either. So we just kind of scooted down a few spots and not be in their direct lineup. We wanted to be able to watch them while we called for backup. So we called the cops, and we also called one of our friends that came over to help us to get some more boots on the ground. And I said, hey, bring some heat.
Yeah,
bring some heat, because we've kicked up a hornet's nest here. We found Drew's car. Yeah. It was an awesome story. It was like something from a movie. It wasn't like finding your stolen car, behind some old movie theater. And this was like we found Drew's car, but it's in the middle of Baghdad, Iraq, and so we found it, but we need some backup, so we've got to secure this vehicle. And then did the cops come?
Well, you're kind of missing a couple of parts on that.
Probably, because it was a long time ago.
Got off the phone with the cops. Dude, I got out of your truck and jumped on that hood and sat on that hood. That guy came out with 2 girls, and they got in a car that was a couple of cars away, a couple of car lengths away, because my car, they had taken all the paint off of it. It had been primed. It had that gray prime on it. So I sat on that car. They got into another car, and if you looked at it, I will always remember this, like back of my hand. That car that they pulled out, it almost looked like they spray painted it black or something. The paint job on it was so horrible, and that was what was always in my head on that. They had already primed mine, and we're going to do some crappy paint job on it and make it look horrible.
Because they did that to their car.
Right, yeah. So cop gets there, and you're still posted up. Cop car gets there. All right, well, is it yours? Yeah. VIN number matches up with my insurance card. Always have insurance. And then he's like, okay, well, you want to take it? And the panel had been popped off. And so working the key didn't work. What you had to do was pull the pin there at where the panel had been popped off.
Oh, God, I remember that.
Yeah. So and I didn't know that. I had to pay a tow guy $50 to come out and be like, yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
I had to pay him $50 for this. But, I mean, at least ultimately.
That's how you had to start it until you got the starter fixed.
Yeah, until I got the starter fixed, yeah.
How crazy.
Yeah. That was, and the most unbelievable part behind it is, yes, finding it. How in the world did we manage to do it? But we did, through the good graces of the higher power. We did. We made
I
it
bet
happen.
those guys are going, how in the world did they find this car?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I couldn't imagine that, dude.
Evil.
I mean, really.
Evil can't hide forever, guys. As we're seeing. We know that now. That is an awesome story.
Oh, yeah. I've never forgotten
I forgot
that.
those. And we're going to tell, that's not this poor car. That's not the first time. He gets stolen later on. We'll share that later on. But that search and recovery of that car was like an Army Ranger mission.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just how we kind of played things anyway.
Unbelievable.
But thankfully beyond that, living on the south side of town, aside from those two or three issues, I really liked it.
I loved it. Yeah.
It was a cool area to be in. We had a good church that we would go to there sometimes. It was a cool place. So we could spend, guys, hours talking about Tulsa. Don't get me started. And so forgive us if we kind of go real deep into Marty McFly's time machine and just start zoning out.
Great Scott.
Because it was a cool city. It was a very cool, livable city for us. Now, if you've been there your whole life, sure, you're probably ready for something different. But it was our second or third place or city that we lived in, and to us, we found it very livable. Everything was all spread out. They had, at that time, 3 or 4 malls. You had 5 or 6, 7, 8 movie theaters, and so it was a big city that was really spread out, and that's kind of typical of the Midwest. And it even had its own riverside area and river parks, and so anyway, I thought it was pretty cool. Let's move on. And then we moved from the south part of town into Midtown just for several months. We found a place there. One of our buddies moved in with us. I can't remember a whole lot of action that went down there of note. But we lived just right off Riverside. I will tell one funny story about Jimmy. And we are trying to track down Jimmy. He is, we will get him. We will get him on the air. But Jimmy, we lived at 46th and Riverside, right on the corner. 44th, 45th?
No, you didn't meet Jimmy until we got to Zunis.
I know, but we went back down to Riverside.
You're talking about the time we went down there. Oh,
yes,
okay.
so, and it was around 46th and Riverside. And so we had parked our car near then, and we were going to cross. Me and Jimmy wanted to go, this was Jimmy's idea. He wanted to go look for crawdads or something. And so I was off that day. I didn't care. So I'd bring the dog with me. Sure. Jimmy's a hoot to hang out. And no matter what Jimmy's going to do, if he invites you to do it and it's not going to a strip club, go do it, because you're going to have a safe, good, fun time. If it's these other things, don't go with him. He's going to get you in a lot of trouble. And if you've got a girlfriend...
He never got me in trouble.
And if you got a girlfriend, you're going to lose your girlfriend. And so that's how much trouble Jimmy can get you into. But if it's not any of those things, you're going to have a fun time. So I'm like, bring the dog. We'll see you down there. We're trying to cross 46 in Riverside, where our old house was that we rented for a few months. And these cars keep coming. Have you ever tried to cross traffic and there's just enough space that you could get by. There's also just enough space that somebody could slow down and let you run across.
Right, yeah.
But they don't, because people are inconsiderate. So the traffic just keeps coming. And
keeps on flowing.
There's 2 lanes coming this way and there's 2 lanes coming back that way. And Jimmy had a walking staff with him.
Yep. Yeah.
And guys, you won't. I don't care if you think
Oh, boy.
you won't have. You may not think this is funny, but I'm telling you, when I seen it, and maybe we had a few early cocktails that morning because we were off work. We were high as a kite, and Jimmy just can't take it any more of these cars not being able to let us pass. Jimmy, who kind of looks like Gandalf sometimes, stands in front of traffic with this 6-foot staff. He's 6 foot something himself, and he just yells out to the traffic at the top of his lungs, "You shall not pass."
Obviously, you know the reference to that, but watching him doing it, I'm sure I wasn't there to get to see it.
I'm telling you.
But that had to have been one of the greatest.
8 cars come to a screeching halt. And the first 2, now I'm doubled over laughing. And for those of you that have met Jimmy, you guys have no idea how funny this guy is. There's only 3 people that can make me laugh this hard to where my internal organs hurt. And Jimmy's that guy. And I'm telling you, I am huddled over from laughing so hard. And I can see the first 2 cars of people also laughing uncontrollably because he just did his Gandalf impersonation of "You shall not pass." And he just made that entire 2-lane traffic come to a stop. And he's like, "Michael, bro, hurry, we can pass now." And I'm like, "Jimmy, you are the funniest person on this planet." And so he was he wearing a wizard hat?
No, I don't think he was.
He was wearing a hat though. Anyway,
he was probably wearing a hat. One of those.
So we crossed the and then now he does the exact same thing. Only this, he doesn't break stride. So now he's going to continue to walk and walks directly into the second oncoming traffic, and it's like they've seen what happened, and so they're kind of already coming to it.
Must have been prepared for it.
And he yelled it out again. "Thank you for letting us pass." You had to have been there. You had to have been there. I peed myself laughing so hard 3 times by the time we got to the other side of that. But anyway, so that's my only Midtown story of note. At a Midtown place for about 6 months. And then we went to I had a girlfriend at the time who said, "Hey, I found you a cool apartment down there." And it was at 2nd and it just fails me. 2nd and Zunas. 2nd and Zunas. Yeah. Which is really close. It is in between Lewis and Utica. So right there at Zunas. And so she goes, "I found you a cool apartment down here." Guys, the rent was $325 for a duplex. Now, it was older. A couple of the windows had been knocked in because people had tried to break in and see what they could find, or whatever. But for guys, say that with me, $325 for a 1-bedroom with a living room. I had a washer dryer.
Dude, you had a full-fledged house, man.
I had a full kitchen.
My duplex, which was oddly enough 3 houses up from
I had a full walk-in closet that we turned into a secret bunker command center.
Yeah.
It was a full living room. That was a very cool place.
It was great. And $325. I paid $300.
Fenced backyard.
Yeah.
Fenced backyard.
The backyard, yeah. That's
another story coming up.
Yeah.
And so we went patrolling, as we do. We just go walking around, just absorbing the new neighborhood and getting a vibe of what the feel is for that place. And lo and behold, 7, 8, 9, 10 houses down is a little duplex for rent too. So Drew got to rent from there. And that was super cool. So me and Drew, we got to live apart from each other because that's what men do. You don't live with your friends for the rest of your life. But it was super cool because he was just 10 houses down and could just zip down.
Yeah.
In any time I needed him, or we were watching a movie or going out or whatever. And so it was super cool, super convenient. And let's see. So that leads me to my next note. Let's just go ahead and talk about Las Americas. Now, a point of interest. A great feature of this area was this Mexican store that was just it was 30 yards from my house.
And it was a laundromat, a hair salon, a grocery store,
Yeah.
an ice cream parlor,
Yeah.
and a restaurant.
Yeah, and they sold piñatas. There was a little party
Yeah.
section.
And there was a little
They
party
sold
section
piñatas,
there too.
and they also somebody had some sort of law advisement office. I remember seeing the sign where they were doing some law advisement.
So apparently you could get your laundry done, your nails done, get
You
your groceries
did it
taken care of, get the kids
all
some ice cream, bring home the
Los
dinner,
Americas.
and if you needed to, get a hold of your attorney. All in one spot, all in one building.
So this was
This was
literally
a great place.
next door to my duplex.
Yep.
And not to mention, they always had, newsflash, some really attractive ladies working the cashier drawers. So, hey,
Guess who's over there all the time?
we got to get our fabuloso from somewhere. It might as well be from you guys. But it seriously was convenient, and everybody was extremely nice.
Yeah, their hospitality.
They
was
had zero problems.
awesome.
You did not have to worry about anything being stolen or shot at while you were at Las Americas.
Yeah, great
And
place. Great place.
the restaurant was okay. The ice cream was all right. I never got my hair cut there. I should have.
I didn't bother with getting my nails done either. So I mean,
I think
just
did
kind
you
of
do your laundry what there?
I think I did it once or twice. Yeah, because I didn't.
I had my own washer and dryer.
You
so I
had your
didn't.
own washer and dryer. I think I had a washer.
It'd be weird if I did my laundry there and I had a washer and dryer.
Well, I mean, there were cute Mexican girls running around, so you know.
It's hard to pass up. And so we did our grocery shopping though. That's
Yeah,
where
we
we
did.
got
We did do that.
our paper plates, our sugar, our tortillas, beef and bean burritos, our beer, our monster drinks, all the necessities of life could be found at Las Americas. And I think we annoyed them for the first month or two.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then they grew fond of us.
Yeah, they just grew to like us.
Especially when we saved the place from being broken into one evening.
Yeah.
Another story for later. And let's see here. Let's transition to the Mexican standoff. Well, we can kind of tell that story. So
It goes hand in hand.
me and Drew like to stay up late. Me and Drew, you know, we never joined the police force, but as with any American, we took it super serious. But it's you need to police your own neighborhood. You police yourself first, and then you keep an eye out for your friends and neighbors and your Americans. And if you see something suspicious that's legit, you say something about it or you do something about it.
Right. Yeah.
Me and Drew would walk these streets at nighttime. We enjoyed doing that. We would walk these streets at nighttime, not looking for problems, but you probably just talking about life and job and school.
Yeah. I mean, just walking down the street, we weren't
But if we see a
doing
problem,
anything.
we'll take care of it or what have you. Or in some instances, it's best to go the other way or what have you. But we were coming around the Las Americas place, and there's this lady comes running down the sidewalk. Interrupt if I've got this messed up or backwards or twisted. Some lady comes running down the sidewalk. She's crying.
Yeah.
And did she have a kid with her?
I don't think she did. No, she didn't.
And she was crying, and we're like, lady, was she white?
Yeah,
I think she was white. And I said,
blonde hair, if I'm not mistaken.
I said, lady,
how I remember that.
Lady,
I have no
chill.
idea.
What's the problem? What's going on? And she said, there's some guy down the street that just pulled a gun out on me. And he's at that house over there and pointed at that house.
Yeah.
I said, okay, we're going to pull you out of his field of vision, and we're going to pull ourselves out of the line of fire from the guy that you just pointed at. You're going to come over here on the side of Las Americas. We're going to bring you over. We're going to bring you over to the side. We were out front where the street is. We're going to bring you over here. And then, had the police been called, or we called the police?
No, she had said that the police were on their way.
The police were on their way.
Yeah,
Okay.
they were on their way.
It's important that she gets to tell who this person is to the police so they can go apprehend the guy who pulled a gun out on her, right? So we want to make sure this lady's safe, and we want to keep eyes on this guy
case he tries to.
who is in this neighborhood with his gun.
Yeah.
So this guy needs to be apprehended because he could be going through people's houses as we speak, shooting people. And this is such a commonplace. I mean, at some point, this has to stop. This happened a lot in Tulsa, way too much. So here's our chance to kind of help out. We're not going to arrest the guy, but we're going to at least
Citizens arrest.
we're going to make sure he doesn't get away and do this to somebody else.
Right.
We didn't want him coming to Las Americas because these girls are about to get off work in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it was like 10 p.m. or something like that. We want to take care of our side of the street.
Right.
We can't do anything about the north side or the east side, but we can take care of our own right here at the front.
A little area right there.
So I had this really good pit bull named Bootleg back in the day. Black and white pit bull. Dustin, who is in the Army for way much longer than we were, did some dog security work with her. Like, she was smart. She was smarter than your average dog. And I said, lady, I'm going to let you have my dog. My dog's going to sit with you right here, and don't you move. She's going to sit with you on this chair, and no one's going to bother you. And this dog won't leave you. This dog's going to wait for us right here and guard you until we come back. Whether that's 10 minutes or a half hour, she's not going anywhere. So that woman took comfort in that. And I'm like, I know the dog's going to do its job. So while the dog is guarding this lady, waiting on the cops to come, we go behind Las Americas.
Yeah, we went the back way, didn't
And
we?
we're sneaking around. We're putting our Army skills to use. We're hiding in the shadows, and we get a visual on this guy that's got the gun.
Yeah.
And he's still lurking around. He was standing in front of some house. We're going, okay. And we need to let the cops know, hey, this is where, so you guys don't get shot.
Right.
So we're trying to save the whole world here, is what it probably sounds like at this point. But we just got to keep eyes on this one dude so nobody gets hurt. And so it's funny, though, because while this is going on, the cop's on his way. We see this guy like trying to crawl under a house, which is cool. He's confined. We know where he is. We'll tell the police, and the police can take care of him. But a helicopter is now coming over the scene, and me and Drew are behind Las Americas. And
guess who gets spotlighted?
so the police chopper puts the spotlight on us. And I'm like, oh, wait, oh, no.
Wrong
Oh, wait,
one.
not us, man. Not us, man. And so finally the cop shows up. I said, Drew, I'm going to go talk to the cop, relieve my dog of guard duty, and then introduce this lady to the cop. This lady is, have you ever had a gun pulled on you? This lady was a nervous wreck. Was she bleeding?
I think there was some sort of bruise or something.
I think her face was bleeding.
Yeah, something was going on.
This was a long time ago. But so the cop pulls up. So you're stayed there watching the guy to make sure he doesn't move. And so I remember telling, this is embarrassing. I'm sorry. I'm telling this story to the cop. And then at some point I remember, I'm like, my God, I've been drinking vodka since 9 a.m. this morning. It was my day off, guys. Don't judge me. But this was a Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. I've been drinking since the sun come up. And this cop is probably about to hit me in the face with a stick and put handcuffs on me just for this. I'm failing the breathalyzer test from 15 feet away. And I'm just like, man, let me tell you what happened. And then another thing. And then don't worry, our dog was here, brother. And so I am now, it is catching up to me.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, if that's all you need from me, sir. Like, I kind of stopped about over half. Once I filled him in, I'm like, okay, Michael, shut up. Shut up and go find Drew, and you guys go to bed.
Yeah.
just call it a night.
Call it a night, man.
Hilarious. But they Did they shoot that guy or they just arrest him? I felt like a shot went off or something. I could be wrong.
I think that they just got him with cuffs on, and that's really what I remember.
Good.
There was cuffs on him, and I mean, I'm pretty sure they probably did find the firearm. So
Hilarious.
I remember him sitting there on the curb with his hands behind his back, and I was like, okay, mission completed.
Well, no. We stayed and we went inside and told the Los Americas girls what had happened.
I wasn't thinking about that.
And so then we stayed until all those girls got home in their cars and left. And then of course we stayed another half hour. Just
stayed around, thinking we were
keeping the streets hot.
Thinking we were Ninja Turtles or something like that.
We were a lot skinnier than Ninja Turtles, but that was a lot of fun. And so we can cross that story off. So at some point, Jimmy, so before Jimmy comes and talks about you shall not pass at the highway, this is how I meet Jimmy, Crazy Jimmy, as we called him. Jimmy was a coworker of Drew's at Home Depot. I did not know Jimmy. I did not meet Jimmy. And even if you told me a story about Jimmy, you know how you tell people, it just didn't register until I actually meet somebody face to face.
Right.
So I was in full-time school and full-time work. Saturdays were my homework days. Saturdays, I could just study as long as I could working on those projects. I'd start early, and sometimes on Sunday mornings too. That was my time to really, really knock out that homework. So Saturday morning was not a time for me to go to the races or to or riding around or anywhere, to the mall, nothing. So Drew had came over that morning for some reason. And it was about maybe 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. You had came to do something and then you were leaving. And then I could start my homework.
Yeah.
But during that time, I'm sitting there and I remember firing up my computer and getting ready to get going. And I heard Drew outside. And that's what I said to myself. I said, who in the world is he talking to now? Drew never meets a stranger. Drew talks to everybody and everything.
Believe it or not, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, what weirdo is Drew out there talking to? Just don't bring him in here.
And well, what do?
Here's what happened next. Seconds later, Jimmy walks in. He's got Daisy Duke shorts on. He's got some American flag tank top on. He's got the hairiest chest and armpits and shoulders and arms in the world.
With an 18-pack of Budweiser.
And he's got a 24 or 36. The big case of Budweisers that you have to carry on your shoulder because they're too heavy to carry here. He comes in like this with his sunglasses on and his Gandalf cowboy hat on. And says, dude, bro, good to meet you, man. Good morning. You want a Budweiser? Here you go. Here you go. And I've got a drinking problem. And I'm like, oh, I've got 8 hours of homework that is waiting on me. And you don't finish that by starting with a can of anything. Period. And so he's like, bro, what's going on, man? Drew's told me so much about you. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, this is a unique, I just felt the uniqueness of the moment.
Keep in mind, Michael still does not know that Jimmy works with me. He still doesn't. I
think this is some dude from, it was quite common. Sometimes we would have a beer with a homeless guy that would walk down our street. Hey, we're all about unity and love, regardless of color, regardless of where you're from.
I don't give a crap.
If you're a thirsty guy coming down our street and it looks like you've not, and you look dehydrated, friend, we're gonna give you a beer or two.
Oh yeah.
And tell us where you're going, where you're coming from. That's as much as as help as we can render, but we want to hear your story. So this guy comes in, and I still don't know who it is. I just think it's
Just some random
friendly
person.
neighborhood guy with a suitcase full of beer handing them out to us. So I take one. Jimmy's probably had 2 or 3 by this point. And so Jimmy's like, yeah. So, but within a few seconds, he says something that says, yeah, Drewby, he works at 10 p.m. and I usually come in at 11 on nights or something like that. I'm like, oh, you're Drew's friend. I thought you were just some homeless maniac that we're giving beer to, which sometimes we do. So, cool. Glad to meet you. He's like, glad to meet you, sir. Drew speaks very highly of you. And I'm like, well, thanks. I do what I can. And he's like, so what you got going on today? I'm like, well, today was a day where I study my school PowerPoints. I'm in charge of putting those together and working on my charts and graphs for my statistics class. And he says, well, I have a feeling you're not going to be doing any of that this morning because we're here to show you a good time. Have another Budweiser. Long story short, we're not even going to share this story any further, but all I can say, and I'm ashamed of this now, we spent that entire day drinking and walking around that neighborhood. And Jimmy acting like a complete funny, crazy person that he is. I will say this, though. At the very peak of this day, and I had it saved on film onto my MySpace account. MySpace wiped out everybody's videos, but for a very, very long time, this was on my MySpace video. I have one left, but it's not this one. But this was the peak funniest moment of the day, and it was probably the peak alcohol content as well.
You're talking, yeah.
But at 2nd Street and Zunis, I look over, and Andrew's laughing. So I'm ahead of this group. I have taken a camera with us, and I had filmed some of this shenanigans. And I look back, because I hear Drew's laughing. Jimmy has, and he don't care about us telling this story whatsoever, period.
No, not at all. No. He loves this story.
And this was a great I love
story.
This story too. This was a long time ago. And Jimmy walks up to a fire hydrant and he squats down in front of it.
On all fours.
All fours, like a dog. And
yes,
let me say this very, very carefully. Jimmy removes his shorts some and relieves himself onto the fire hydrant
like a dog
a dog does. Punchline, with his leg lifted in the air. And I have, because I'm recording it because I turned around to and it's recording. I am laughing so hard. I have collapsed on this sidewalk. I have not laughed this hard ever before or since.
Yeah.
I'm laughing so hard, I'm begging God to make it stop. It gets worse.
Well,
if you thought this was enough, and there's people around, guys. This is at like 12 noon.
Yeah, this is in the middle
of
the day.
On 2nd Avenue.
Yeah,
and Zunis. To add to this, an ambulance comes by with the siren on.
Sirens going and everything, blaring.
Can
lights
you
are
imagine being the first responders in this ambulance and everybody looks over at once and like wait, are we supposed to respond to this call? We just drove by a guy that's acting like a dog on a fire hydrant, or are we going to this other thing? And as I'm recording this, the ambulance is coming by in the background, and you hear me laughing so hard I'm wheezing.
Yeah.
I cannot breathe. And that day, and guys, don't do that at home. Don't try that. I'm not proud of that.
Don't do these things that we've done.
That it was really, really, really funny, but we really needed to grow up, and
We have since then, trust me.
And we are all in sobriety and clean and doing great with our lives. That was just a very unusual Saturday with a very unusual man by the name of Crazy Jimmy. And that's why we call him that. It's not just because it rhymes. It doesn't rhyme at all, really. And that day, we eventually passed out from alcohol poison, no doubt. I woke up hours later that evening, around 6 or 7, and I'll go to the front part of my house, and who's on my couch?
Passed out.
Jimmy. Jimmy with just his boxers on. And who is Jimmy hugging? Who's Jimmy hugging on my couch? You're probably thinking Drew. That's it. You think, well, he's hugging my dog. The sight of it was so precious. It was like something from a movie. It was like from a Will Ferrell movie. And Jimmy doesn't try to act funny or be funny. He's just him. And that was the Saturday we met Jimmy. And that's the clean version. There's several segments I won't share.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
hard. I mean, nothing illegal happened, but
there was just some really not parental guidance suggested.
Anyway, we got friends and families and kids and nephews and my church friends watching it, but
hi.
It was a funny, hilarious day, and I hope you've had a day like that, because that day, I hope you don't have every day like that, but probably once in a lifetime you can remember that one of the craziest day you've ever had, and that was the day.
That was like 16 years ago.
Man,
that's unbelievable.
Man, oh man. But anyway, so that's that. We can check that story off. Okay, how about backyard explosion? Let's take a water break. So, all right, this next story we're calling Backyard Explosion. Now, my backyard to this place had been completely overgrown. And I'm talking stalks, grass grows, and then at some point, grass stalks begin to grow. And it was about maybe 3 or 4 feet high. And so I had chopped, my way to the middle of it. In the middle, the center was the worst. I had no mower, but there's no mower going to tackle this until you get some of this stuff cut or burned down. And so men love fire. We love to play with fire. We love to start fires. We love to put out fires. We love just fire in general. We don't want to live there forever. We're not going to hell by no means, but we love fire controlled and contained and temporary.
And at that time, we were extreme pyros who, like you just said, loved fire.
And we partied a lot.
Yeah, we partied way too much, especially for what he's about to do.
In our off time, guys, we worked really hard at our job, and we were very passionate about it. We loved it.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, off the clock, we partied hard too.
Worked hard, partied harder, yeah.
And so I had, and this is just stupid thinking, I'm like, I'm going to take this gasoline because rumor has it gasoline burns pretty fast. And we're going to take out these pesky weeds. So I want to make sure I take care of this brush overgrowth fast and furious. So I poured gasoline into the middle of it, into a circle. And I'm going to light the gasoline. And I'm squatted down and I'm encased with this 4-foot stalks. Okay. Now, we're not that dumb. We have a water hose. I've got Drew manning the water hose, and I'm like, Drew, if it gets out of control, spray the fire, okay? I didn't think I'd be the one being sprayed. So when I go down to light this little bit of fire that I was going to start, the gasoline fumes, guys, for those of you that don't know, are called combustible, which means
Boom.
the vapors
Makes big boom.
the vapors explode when they don't get to breathe and float up into the air. The center of these stalks I was enclosed in had trapped the vapors in. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Nor did I factor that in. Did you? Did you factor that in?
I mean, I was young and probably drunk, so
Yeah.
I wasn't factoring anything in at that particular time.
After half a gallon of vodka, what are you factoring in?
All right, we're gonna burn down your backyard.
You can't even pronounce the word. Well, I can do it now, and I'm sorry. So you're not even factoring in the physics of how to safely set your backyard on fire. All I know is I go to light my match of this small, safe, G-rated fire that I have that's got a little bit of gasoline on it. And then from there, my plan is for this trail to take off and take care of that brush. All I know is I lit and I flew through the air. I lit and it went boom. It stood me up from squatting down, and I heard the boom. It was almost just like the movie. I heard the boom, and I know I am knocked up and back. And I think I even fell back.
You did fall back.
It knocked me up and way back.
Yeah. You. I mean, I seen you go. I'm like,
And I seen a flash of flame.
yeah.
I seen that. And then I stood up and I felt, and I seen like a couple of flames like on my arm. And I'm like, Drew, squirt me down with the hose. I'm on fire. Drew squirts me down with the hose. And it was like trickling. It was like a spray. It was like a misty,
Like-
like a home and garden spray. We're going to spray down these ferns real gently today on a Sunday. And I grabbed it from him. I'm like, no. And I turned it off to where it was just the old.
Just going, yeah.
Oh, and I poured it on me from the top, and I could see it was steaming,
whelping up too.
and my arm was welting up, and the steam was coming off like a steam skillet, and I was like, man, that was not exactly at all what we had planned for this afternoon.
You had to go and make your own gas chamber because you've wanted to go back to the gas chamber ever since we left Fort Benning.
No, I wanted a safe and productive backyard burn so I could get a mower to get that place.
You had a backyard boom.
Now my arms and face, my eyebrows are gone. If you can imagine that, my eyebrows are gone, and my arms are literally sizzling. I heard it sizzling, and I take my shirt off, and it's all weird, just red and white spots, all in here, red and white spots. And so I go inside, and I remember trying to put on something. I had something. Some
Sort of lotion that you were trying to put on.
some ointment I was trying to put on.
I don't know if you was trying to put on aloe. Would it have been?
I can't remember what it was, but I was trying to get some medicine on it. And then I called Robbie, and she's like, "You guys are so stupid." And I'm like, "Well, do I need to go to the emergency room or what? Because I don't want to. But if you've got some medicine and can run it over, it'd be great." She was one of our neighbors, kind of. She lived down the road, about a mile down the road. And so she brought something over, and I'm like, all right. So I went to, and so that helped a little bit. And I went to the gas station, and because I had to get whatever before the night ended. I always filled up my car with gas Sundays. We did a lot of stuff on Sundays.
Yeah.
Because Monday the work we would do laundry and put new linens on the beds on Sundays. We would fill our cars up with gas on Sundays. I still cut all my thumbnails and fingernails on Sundays. Like there was a lot of stuff I did on Sundays because it was the beginning of your week and you didn't have to. It just made you feel real squared away. You don't have to do it, but it was just kind of cool. Anyway, and we would always wash your car on Sundays.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm going to Quick Trip to get some stuff for Sunday, and I'm like, my body is just emitting this heat, like dangerous heat. And I'm like, should I even be beside these gas pumps? Like, am I a walking...
You're a watching match stage.
Am I a walking match here? Come on. And so the next day, I went to work. I went to work. I didn't miss work. The next day I was at work. But I went to the company nurse. And by then, some of the bruises had started to show up. And so I went by the company nurse and I was like, hey, Pam, will you take a look at this? And she's looking at my eyebrows and you could tell.
She thought he went and got a wax job.
My face looked like your front tire of that car just ran over my face. Because I had just like a big red lightning bolt here and part of my eyebrows were missing. And then all my arm hair was burnt off.
Yep.
And then I had these weird red and white bruises all over my arms. And so I said, well, let me tell you what happened. I said, me and Drew was in and you should have seen the look on the company nurse's face. She was like bracing herself for this story. And she's like, well, what happened is those vapors, Mike, caught on fire and it created an explosion. And you are in the center of it. And so those bruises, those are impact blast explosion bruises. She goes, you have internal bruises. That's how powerful it was. And I was like, oh my God, wow. So thank God that was the extent of my injuries. And so my arms just hurt for the rest of the week. And as you can see, my eyebrows and
they grew back.
Arm hair grew back. But anyway, so that's called backyard explosion. Guys, please be careful when you're burning stuff in the backyard. Make sure that water hose is nearby. Make sure, just avoid doing it if you can.
Yeah, just don't do it.
Yeah, just
light it on fire and then kind of put a little bit of gas in there to kind of.
You don't need any of that stuff.
Don't throw a gallon of gas on a pile of sticks.
Never, don't.
Just don't do that. Feel like we're Smokey the Bear right now, or something. Only you can prevent backyard explosions. Let's take a quick break.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the camera, and because when I stop it and turn it back on, sometimes it will say, "Oh, you've got 10 minutes left of memory." So I've never owned a chimenea. This was not mine. This belonged to Yvonne, the girl that lived next door to me at the duplex, and then she just disappeared off the earth, I guess. But she did leave the chimenea, and then one day we used it and nearly set the house on fire. So tell us, Drew, your side of the story from that evening.
Well, I mean, you couldn't have put it better. You had just gotten this chimenea. Neither one of us have ever had a chimenea. Neither one of us really know what to do with a chimenea, flat out. And we just think, we start loading it up, getting it on fire, it's going. Keep in mind, this is around the same time period that we had that backyard explosion. I mean, we're hardcore pyros, obviously, and what better way to do it than, here's a chimenea, just got it, don't know really what to do with it, don't know how much you can load into it.
Didn't know.
No, not at all.
So we put as much as we possibly could in it.
We got that base going, because chimenea, if you don't, like us, it's real heavy at the bottom, and then it has a little chimney, and it's just portable, it's awesome. And we got that base going, and then we're still shoving sticks in there, and that's not enough for us.
Magazines and kindling, and I hope we didn't pour gasoline on it.
Well, I think we learned our lesson on the
good.
last time.
But whatever we were putting in that chimenea, and then this was on our front porch.
Yeah.
But the chimenea, the flume on it, I don't know. I guess was
going
over 7-8 feet. Like, it was taller than me.
Yeah. I mean, and this is the chimenea. You're talking about after the chimney, the flame after the chimney.
The flame was coming through the top of the chimenea, which is a better part of 6, 7, 8 feet.
Yeah.
And it started melting the shingles that was close to it. And a portion of the shingles caught on fire. The roof caught on fire. We know this because one of our neighbors personally drove by us to tell us, "Hey, you guys, your roof is on fire."
No, it ain't.
I said, "No, it's not. No, thanks. No, thanks. No, thank you. You guys want a beer?" And they said, no, man, really, your chimney, can walk out here and you can see it.
And look at it.
It's good, bro. It's good.
No, it's
that's
fine.
just the flame coming from the chimney. I know we got one heck of a firecracker going on here. We know that, but the roof's not on fire.
We got this contained.
He says, "No, we live on, Lewis Avenue or wherever." He lived in
He lived like a block away.
He lived on the street parallel with us, and he says, "We're in our backyard with our chimenea." That was a big thing back in the 2000s, 10s or whatever it was.
Well, yeah, from 2000 to 2009.
He says, we're on our back porch with our chimenea, and we're watching your chimenea catching your roof on fire.
Catching your house on fire.
And I'm like, God, you guys know when you guys get under the influence, you're like, I wish everybody would just leave us alone. And
there's a reason why they don't.
Imagine the nerve of this guy driving all the way over here just to tell us our roof's on fire. Man, what a crazy person. So we stepped back into the road and noticed that, sure enough, there was a section of shingles that were on fire.
Yep.
Due to the chimenea.
The chimenea of death,
because we just couldn't stop feeding firewood into it.
Yeah, we just wouldn't stop feeding it. We wanted a higher and higher flame.
It's not made to flume out a flame to Mars and back. But
once again, we did not have a chimenea before. I never had one.
It was our first one and our last one, because it got so hot that it cracked the and they're not made to crack. They're not made to burn like that. But we were flaming it with the fires of doom and hell. And
oh yeah,
what's the name of that place from the Lord of the Rings? Wherever that
Mordor.
Yeah, we were flaming
Mount Doom or something like that.
So we melted the parts of the roof, and I took that good old water hose that we had there, and we thank God for that water hose. And
it's always been a spiffy little. Wasn't it?
I soaked down the entire roof and made sure everything was good to go. But it was funny when we revisited Tulsa. I walked past where I used to live, and I still seen the melted shingles from way back yonder.
Yeah, and that was just a couple years ago when we went.
Yeah.
So it's since 2010 roughly.
Hilarious times. I've got some more funny stories. We have guys completely ran out of phone juice and battery and maybe some memory. So this is a tremendous stopping point. You guys are getting a bountiful amount of Tulsa stories. We finally did them. This is exactly how I wanted to do the Tulsa stories, not over Zoom or Riverside or something like that. But at least where me and Drew were in the same room to share some very, very funny, hilarious, and interesting, weird stories from out there in the 918.
918.
Never hate the 918. That's their area code. For those of you that don't know, don't hate the 918 was a famous T-shirt. So, man, Drew, again, thanks for coming on the show.
No problem, dude.
We're going to wrap it up with that. And if we have any more, well, we'll just do another one. But that should be a good amount for the world to know. And again, we're clean and sober. That was a different part of our history. We worked hard, and boy, we partied too hard. But we had no one was injured too badly, and we had a lot of good fun with it. But it'd be here all night because it was a great experience. But I hope you enjoyed some of them, Drew. Thanks for coming down.
Yeah, man,
this was a blast, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Oh, and let me just say finally, again, to all of our friends, co-workers, supervisors, everybody out there in Tulsa town, don't hate the 918. If we upsetted you while we were out there, that happens sometimes too. We're sorry. We'll make amends. Right. But hey, we love and got nothing but love for everybody out there in Tulsa. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Maybe we'll see you soon.
Love y'all.
See you on the next one. Thanks for watching.
Have a good one.